Disclaimer, this movie has some gory and violent scenes, so viewers' discretion is advised. Also, I watched this video in original Japanese dubbed with Indonesian subtitles, and I don't know both languages, so it is possible I had misunderstood some of the movie plot, so... Anyways, let's begin the movie recap! The story begins with Hina, a high school introvert with friend issues. She lives with her mom and dad. Her mother, who thinks Hina has plenty of friends, always packs her extra lunch. For some reason, she also forcefully gives her cucumber salad. Being a people pleaser, Hina couldn't tell her mom the truth and just smiled at her. As Hina got closer to her school, she saw an ugly drunk cat and thought they were the same. Nobody liked them. As she walked away, she heard the cat let out a mournful scream. She turned back, only to see that it had ended its life by throwing itself under a bus.
I believed it symbolized the cruel work culture in Japan, and how even the cat couldn't escape it.
While contemplating her life choices, Hina was walking to school when she bumped into a boy from her class. They exchanged a brief moment of interaction before he left with his friends. As Hina walked into her classroom, a new drama was already unfolding. The class otaku had been framed for possessing lowly hentai manga. He denied the accusation, but the class hierarchy quickly labeled him the class pervert. Suddenly, along with the class monitor, that same boy, known as the class prince, walked in and asked what was going on. A random NPC told him the otaku had been caught with lowly hentai manga. Being a MILF lover himself, the class prince couldn't stand the disgust and left the otaku's fate in the hands of the class NPCs, then walked out of the frame. Hina, silently watching it all unfold, couldn't help but think she was surrounded by weirdos. As lunchtime came, Hina again realized how antisocial she is and walked out of the class. She found a quiet and empty spot near the under-construction school chapel near a well. As she was lost in thought about finishing her huge lunch, Hina's eyes landed on the well. She saw several CGI hands covered in red paint slowly rising out of it. She looked confused, thinking that no matter where she went, people always found her. Suddenly, the construction workers returned from their lunch break and their leader asked why Hina was eating her massive lunch at a construction site. Hina felt sexually harassed and simply bowed her head, asking for forgiveness. On her way back, Hina couldn't help but wonder whose hands those were, and like any smart girl, she walked up to the well to inspect it. But to her surprise, it was empty, dark and soulless, just like her. On her way back to school, Hina stumbled upon the school librarian who was hiding his lowly hentai manga collection after hearing that the student board was beating the shit out of anyone caught with such filth. The librarian wasn't surprised to see Hina. He just kept digging, knowing she was antisocial and wouldn't tell anyone even if she wanted to. But then, God himself sent a sign of his presence by dropping a flower pot to the ground. Seeing that, the librarian realized he couldn't run from what he'd done. He gave up and walked away to prepare for his punishment. The school day ended with the otaku being harassed by the student body. Back in her room, Hina was checking her upcoming period cycle on the calendar when she suddenly heard her phone vibrating. She picked it up and read some disturbing messages. Dragon Ball Z is mid and One Piece is stupid. Reading that hit her emotionally. Frightened, she jumped into bed. As she fell asleep, Hina realized she had somehow been transported back to the school chapel. There, she found herself face to face with the chosen ones. Girl 1, Girl 2, the class prince, the otaku, and Emo Suska. As they began questioning why they were there, Emo Suska said, "Fuck you all," and walked out of the chapel. The class prince suggested they stick together, but Emo Suska rejected the advice, saying destiny had other plans for him. The others were left stunned by his Aura Riz dialogue. As Emo Suska walked off campus, he felt like a deadass beta was approaching him, but he kept walking, only to trip and fall sideways. His Sigma scream echoed through the school. The class prince, who had a bit of a brotherly crush on Emo Suska, ran to rescue him, only to find him lying there, on the ground, like a badass bitch. Shocked and spellbound by Imosuska's attitude, the others started shivering, only to get jump-scared by Girl One's failed attempt at a surprise entrance through the window. Soon they all realized they were trapped in some kind of dirty dream, and someone was out to unalive their skibbity asses. Panic set in, and they bolted, but the school gate was locked. Everyone ran to hide. Otaku got caught first and was brutally put into eternal sleep. Next was Girl 2, dragged away by her legs and thrown off the railing to her goofy death. Class Prince and Hina sprinted to the school infirmary. Hina hid under the bed while Class Prince held the door, but he was quickly blown away by the hunter. Class Prince finally saw the hunter, but before he could spill the tea, the hunter beat the crap out of him. Hina saw the hunter's red legs as they climbed onto the bed to jump. A kinky hunter, I must say. Hina thought maybe she was safe, but then Hunter pulled her from under the bed. For the first time, she saw the hunter's face. An eyeless red bitch with red paint all over her body, and she was holding a potato sack of a doll in her left hand. Hina tried to run, but she got back short from the red bitch. Hina pushed her back, but the red bitch jumped on her and pushed her arm into Hina's throat, giving her the taste of deep-throating. Hina woke up from her nightmare, but she couldn't shake the feeling that she'd just experienced a real deep throat. She came down to the breakfast table where her mother told her she'd made extra lunch for Hina and her friends. As usual, Hina said nothing, until her mother mentioned the cucumber salad. Hina realized it was the same dirty, sinful cucumber salad from yesterday, made with the very cucumber her mother had used for something naughty. Next, on her way to school, Hina saw that same cat committing seppuku. She realized everything was repeating just like yesterday. In class, she spotted the otaku and Class Prince having an intense, intimate conversation before the prince pulled him out of the room. Curious, and very much into yaoi, Hina followed them.
Otaku explained that all 6 of them had been nominated for a body search game. They had to find body parts before the red creature unalived them for the night. Only after collecting all the pieces could they break free, otherwise the same day would repeat endlessly. On the second night, they all gathered in the chapel where a coffin had been placed for them to store the collected body parts. Imo Susuka, even after hearing the rules, refused to help. He was simply too cool for that. Everyone started searching except Imo Susuka. Hina began her search in the art room where she was ambushed by the Class Prince, who claimed he was there to help. As they pretended to search, the Class Prince shared some lore from his past. He had erectile dysfunction. Hina looked surprised and asked why he was telling her this. The Class Prince smiled and said he believed Hina would understand his problem, because he knew her secret. Hina was actually an otokonoko. Already familiar with the brain level of the Class Prince, Hina didn't bother explaining herself. She simply accepted his words. As they were about to leave the art room, Hina asked to look inside the supply room. Class Prince, who suddenly felt superiority complex, did what a douchebag would do, took the credit by saying he was also going to check that room. In the supply room, they found the hand of the girl floating in an aquarium tank. But as they were about to take out the arm, the red bitch appeared. Using his last few brain cells, Class Prince pulled the hand out and asked Hina to take it back to the chapel. Meanwhile, Class Prince started to distract the red bitch. Class Prince tried choking the red bitch with a bold "choke me, daddy" move, but she was too powerful for his fragile ego. She bit his balls and he died, ballless and broken. Meanwhile, Otaku tried hiding in a supply closet, but the red bitch caught him too and shoved the potato sack doll straight into his anus. Hina ran to the chapel, placed the severed head in the coffin, and suddenly, her dream shattered. The same day looped again, but this time Hina looked happier, almost satisfied. She even arrived in time to save the cat from committing seppuku. But the Class Prince got there first and took the credit. Then Girl 1 and Girl 2 swooped in and claimed their victory. Girl 2 even admitted she wet the bed every time she had to face the red bitch. Hearing that, the Class Prince felt oddly reassured, the only one dealing with such issues. Back in class, Girl 1 decided to help Otaku by catching the NPC boys red-handed while planting loli hentai manga in Otaku's desk. The NPC boys protested, but the combined riz of the Class Prince and Girl 1 was too much for them to handle. Girl 2, with full composure, collected the manga and handed it over to the student council for ceremonial burning. Meanwhile, Otaku had been watching from outside the classroom. He walked in proudly and declared, "I only like scat, not loli." Hearing that, Hina felt relieved. On the third night of the body search, the girls hid in the pool, hoping to stay safe. But the red bitch found them. Without hesitation, she drowned them in the red-colored water, wiping them out instantly. The next day, they sat down for a group meeting to come up with a plan to find the body parts quickly, without getting unalived. The girls were running late, so the curious otaku turned to the class prince and asked why Emo Susuka was deep into his villain arc. The class prince explained that he and Emo Susuka had been childhood friends. Back then, Susuka dreamed of becoming a cosplayer, dressing up as a cute anime girl. But his dad crushed that dream, telling him a ridiculous lie. Boys who dress like girls lose their PP. Susuka believed it for years and ran from his dream. One day, though, he discovered OnlyFans and thought he could cosplay there in secret. But when he finally logged on, he was hit with a shock. His own dad was one of the platform's top anime girl cosplayers, an exclusive creator doing cute poses in a Catgirl-made outfit. Seeing his 47-year-old father twirling in lace and ears shattered something in him. From that day on, Susuka hated cosplay with every fiber of his being, and became an esports player instead. Everyone finally arrived, and Otaku stepped forward to present his plan. He laid out a series of newspaper clippings explaining that the red bitch was actually a young girl who'd been slayed by her mother and her mother's boyfriend. Hina asked about the girl's real father. Otaku replied, "He went out to buy cup noodles and never came back." As Hina stared at one of the clippings, she noticed something horrifying. Worms were crawling out of the girl's eyes. Shocked, she stumbled backward, but the class prince rushed to catch her before she fell. Seeing the class prince's perfect catch, Otaku called him a smooth criminal. The class prince laughed it off and said, "Hina's actually a trans boy." Girl 1 got instantly excited, and with no way out, Hina played along. Then the class prince joked about seeing Hina's tiny PP. Embarrassed, Hina quickly covered his mouth to shut him up. Out of nowhere, the librarian appeared, reminding them it was a library and they should keep their voices down. He also added deadpan, "By the way, if anyone finds a stash of loli hentai manga buried somewhere on campus, it's not mine." Hearing the librarian, Otaku grew suspicious. For a split second, he wondered if this was the loli pervert the student council had been searching for. Without hesitation, he climbed onto the table, struck a majestic Japanese Jesus pose, and declared, "From this moment on, I proudly announce that I only love scat hentai manga and nothing else." Girl 1 blinked and asked, "What's scat?" Otaku, his voice deep and solemn, replied, "It's a fetish where someone enjoys watching others do their business." He then proudly proclaimed that it runs in the family. His grandfather was into ass hentai, his father preferred toilet hentai, and he himself embraced scat hentai. "I like watching guys do their business," he added, leaving the class prince visibly unnerved. On the fourth night of the body search, they finally had a solid plan in motion. Otaku was stationed at the school's broadcast mic and told to recount his grandpa's infamous poop adventures in the boys' bathroom. The story worked. The red bitch became distracted, giving the others time to search for body parts. To top it off, Otaku added a personal tale. The time he pulled a massive doo-doo out of his dad's anus with his fingers. The plan worked. In a chaotic montage of sequels, they gradually collected the body parts. But, on the 9th night of the hunt, everyone was killed, except Emo Susuka. All this time, he'd been sulking through his villain arc, too emo to care. But watching his friends fight so hard finally broke something open. He shook off the trauma of seeing his father in a cat costume and decided to move forward. He sprinted to save the half-dead class prince. As he ran, not Emo Susuka began to realize maybe it's okay for his dad to cosplay. Maybe he should talk to him, not just about the Catgirl outfits, but about his mom's suspicious office trips with her boss. And lastly, he still loved his dad. Not Emo Susuka placed the final body part into the coffin. The red bitch vanished instantly. Now they were one head job away from freedom. The next day, they all went to the house where the red bitch had been killed. They wandered inside and conducted a completely pointless inspection. Amid the dust and shadows, they found a creepy drawing and the potato sack doll the red bitch always carried. But as they approached it, the doll suddenly evaporated into thin air. That was enough. Panicked, they bolted, running their asses out of the house. On the 10th night of the body search, real horror began. The red bitch had evolved into Bussy-chan. She was stronger than ever, intentionally triple killing them and swallowing the second girl whole. Hina, barely escaping Bussy-chan's wrath, chose the second path to life. She leapt from the 4th floor, hoping to soar. But like most of our dreams, she hit the ground and got flat. After that night, everything changed. The stakes had skyrocketed. Otaku announced they were now in the final level of the body search game. If anyone got eaten by Bussy-chan, they'd be erased from reality for good. Back in class, the group was deep in thought. Then Hina spoke up with an idea. What if the last head is inside Bussy Chan's ball sack? Everyone stared for a moment, then nodded in agreement. At the end of the day, on the school terrace, Hina confessed to the class prince that she believed they'd forget everything once the game was finally over. So, she told him the truth. She was a girl, not a boy pretending to be one. The class prince smiled. "I don't care," he said. "I love you either way." Then he held her from behind and added, "I'm a master at getting involved in other people's business, and I'll never leave you unsatisfied." Hina paused. For the first time, she thought, maybe the class prince was queer. And maybe, just maybe, she could give him a chance. On the final night of the body search, they gathered in a dim BDSM-style dungeon room where a makeshift trap had been set to catch Bussy Chan. She dropped in through the ceiling like Doom incarnate and instantly obliterated Girl 1. Channeling the spirit of not emo Susuka, he swung into action, wrapping a chain around Bussy Chan and pinning her to a pillar. Off-screen, Otaku found eternal sleep, likely dreaming of scatological glory. But even Susuka wasn't safe. Bussy-chan broke free and unalived him, leaving only the class prince. Fueled by vengeance and possibly unresolved romantic tension, class prince revved up a chainsaw and split Bussy-chan's ballsack wide open. Inside was the final missing body part, the head. Class prince and Hina made their way to the chapel to place the final body part, but just as they entered, Bussy-chan spawned behind them, determined to stop the ritual. Unfortunately for them, construction sites are unforgiving. Class prince got smashed by a rogue pipe, and Bussy-chan was politically squashed by a falling giant cross. Somehow, Hina survived. She placed the final piece and sealed the coffin. The curse broke. The game ended. Daylight arrived at last. Everything was back to normal. Hina, now freed, finally confronted her mom, telling her she knew what went down during mommy time with the cucumber. Back at school, she saw it clearly. Everyone had forgotten the game, just as she'd suspected. And honestly, that made her happy. She didn't have to deal with that cursed nonsense ever again. And that's a wrap. Your complete recap of Remember. If you liked the video, don't forget to subscribe. Seriously, I need that boost to keep this madness going. Smash that like button, share it with your weirdest friends, and until next time, stay safe, stay sussy.